procedures. The fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this ARB to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting, and that as such, FOIA's usual procedures which require physical assembly of the ARB and the physical attendance of the public cannot be implemented safely or practically. Further move that the ARB may conduct this meeting electronically through Microsoft Teams, a county virtual meeting platform, and available through access on the ARB County website or through phone at 1-571-429-5982 with the access code 527-782-323. It is so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Huang. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those
Aye.
against? And any abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you.
All right, next, it is required that all the matters addressed on today's agenda are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of this board's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those against? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you.
All right, and last but not least, we are required to allow the public an opportunity to speak on any consent items or items or agenda, excuse me, any consent items or items for action at this meeting, and the public shall be afforded a chance to speak after the applicant presents. The ARB needs to determine how much time a member of the public will have to comment on any such item. I move that the public be afforded 3 minutes to comment on any item.
Is there a second?
Second. I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
those against? No. And any abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Albry. I'll take the gavel back. And we move onward to our agenda for tonight. We've set our public comment time limits. Denise, do you have any items to discuss about the the Teams platform, excuse me?
Yes, this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be posted online within 10 days. Attendees may email me during the meeting or use the chat function in the Teams platform for inquiries, and staff will monitor and respond accordingly. If you're calling in and wish to make a public comment, please indicate so by raising your hand, pressing *5 at the appropriate time.
All right, thank you so much, Denise. I think in addition to that, now that we've gotten through all the regular business, we usually start our meetings with a reading of the Statement of Purpose and Intent of Historic Overlay Districts. Is there a member that would like to read it? If not, I will be glad to do so. Mr. Burns.
Chairman, I would be happy to do that.
Mr. Burns, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Historic overlay districts are created for the purpose of protecting the general welfare, education, economic prosperity, and recreational pleasure of the public through the perpetuation of those general areas or individual structures and premises that have been officially designated by the Board of Supervisors as having historical, cultural, architectural, or archaeological significance. Regulations within such districts are intended to protect against destruction of or encroachment upon such areas, structures, and premises, to encourage uses which will lead to their continuance, conservation, and improvement in a manner appropriate to the preservation of the cultural, social, economic, political, architectural, or archaeological heritage of the county. To prevent creation of environmental influences adverse to such purposes, and to assure that new structures and uses within such districts will be in keeping with the character to be preserved and enhanced.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burns. All right, so a few other housekeeping items before we move into the approval of the agenda. I will just remind folks that we have split our traditional ARB meeting into two. So we have this one today on the 9th, and we have another ARB meeting on the 13th. Kalukale. to accommodate workshop sessions because we had so many workshop sessions. So this meeting is going to be focused on action items. I will remind applicants who are presenting that we ask that you keep your presentations, if it is a new presentation, to 8 minutes for a first submission and 3 minutes for a resubmission to try to balance timeliness so that we have time for discussion and so we can end at a reasonable hour. With that in mind, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda or amend it if anyone wishes to amend it as submitted.
Mr. Daniel, I'll be happy to approve the agenda as submitted.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. The agenda is approved. All right, Janice, do we have any recognitions of guests or introductions that we need to go through?
I do not see any special guests tonight.
All right, will do. Well, that takes us right on into our consent calendar items. Obviously, consent calendar items don't require presentations. However, there is an opportunity for any member of the public to comment on any item on the consent calendar. Since there was no motion to move any of these out of consent calendar, I'm going to open the floor for any member of the public who has a comment on item 1 to indicate by raising your hand or by *5 or #5, Denise, or 6. What is that? What do they have to hit?
Sorry, I'm scrolling up to get to their *5 on their phone, but I do not see any callers tonight.
Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any hands raised for item number 1. I'll open the floor as well for anyone who might have a comment on item number 2. Far, not seeing any, but we'll leave the floor open for a minute just to be certain. All right. Not hearing any, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items or discussion at the members' purview. Denise should have shared with you some sample motions for approving or other types of activities you all like to do.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Burns.
Yes, I need to recuse myself from consent item number 2, so if we could vote on them separately, I will recuse myself from number 2.
Certainly. Ms. Ward, I see you there on our screen. Did you have a comment on one of the consent items?
No, I do not. I'm trying to get off your screen very safely. As soon as I figure that out, I'll start again.
It's quite all right. Okay, so we've had a recommendation by Mr. Burns that we vote on these separately so that he might recuse himself from one of the items. I would entertain a motion for each one of them if anyone would be so happy to make it. We're all going to sorely miss Jason, right? Ms.
Aye.
Murray, I saw your hand go up.
Am I doing it?
Yes, the floor is yours, Ms. Murray.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve consent item ARB 23-Sol02-Catchy Sign as submitted and presented at tonight's submitted and presented at the February 9th, 2023 ARB meeting. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Mr. Plumpy. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. For the applicant that represents that application, Denise will get with you following the meeting to talk about getting the application stamp and approval information. All right, one consent item down. I entertain a motion for our second one.
Be happy to do it.
All right, Mr. Kalinsky, the floor is yours.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve consent item ARB 22-LOR-03 amendment, Bryn Mawr Early Education and Preschool, and as submitted and presented at the February 9, 2023 ARB meeting. On review of the materials, the proposals found to meet requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Orr. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Let us note that Mr. Burns recused himself from that vote. So the motion carries with one member recusing. All right. That takes us through our consent calendar items. Mr. Burns, you may return to us from your recusal. All right, that brings us now into our items for action. We have 3 items for action. The first item for action is ARB 23 SMC03 St. Mary's Special Permit Amendment. This is located at 5612 Ox Road in Fairfax Station. In the St. Mary's Church Historic Overlay District, the applicant is proposing to amend the SP 88S92 and VC 88S158 to add land use, install accessory improvements, and make the site modifications associated with those proposed expansions on the existing cemetery. I'll highlight to everybody that this is not a approval, it is a recommendation because it is a zoning action. So our motion would be a recommendation if we so choose to give it. This is being represented by Ms. Catherine Taylor, who represents the application. Ms. Taylor, are you here with us?
Actually, Lynn Strobel will be representing tonight. I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Being represented by Ms. Strobel. Welcome, Ms. Strobel. Do you have a presentation or anything you'd like to share with
I do. And thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I hope that I can do this.
We'll let you know.
How did I do?
All right. Yes, we can see your screen.
Wonderful.
Perfect. The floor is yours.
I feel like that was the hardest part of tonight, so that's good. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the Architectural Review Board. My name is Lynn Strobel. I'm with the law firm of Walsh Colucci. I'm here tonight on behalf of Historic St. Mary's Catholic Church. I have a few folks with me this evening whom I will introduce, and I may call on them to answer some of your questions if I'm unable to. We've got Anne Marie McKinnon with the Arlington Diocese, Kathy Coleman with St. Mary's Catholic Church, and also Connie Fan, who is our landscape architect. So I'm going to go to our first slide. And my presentation will be brief. We are discussing this evening property that is adjacent to St. Mary's Historic Church. And the church is the reason why this historic district was in fact established. It is the first, it is the first Roman Catholic church in Fairfax County. And it predates the Civil War. And I'm sure, as most of you know, it is the location where Clara Barton did tend wounded soldiers from the Civil War and gained notoriety in that regard. So the property is relatively unchanged over the years. It does have a cemetery that surrounds it, and it is that cemetery that causes us to be here this evening. There's a desire to expand it. I wanted to take us back just a little bit to 2016, and I think at least 2 of you may recall that I presented to this board several times in that year because the diocese wished to purchase 2 adjacent homes that were next to its property, next to St. Mary's, and each was developed with a residential dwelling. They wished to purchase these properties so that they could expand the cemetery. And interestingly enough, these structures were identified as contributing structures in the historic overlay district. And quite frankly, after doing a little research, we disagreed with that. And we came to the ARB to have that designation removed and to ask if we could remove the structures. These were the 2 homes that were on the property. We did an archaeological study, we did an architectural survey, and we did receive approval from this board to remove those 2 homes. And so this is an aerial that just shows, hopefully you see that kind of grassy area that's next to the church. That's where the 2 homes were removed. So really the area that we're talking about this evening is mostly open area. There are some existing trees around the perimeter, and the diocese is seeking permission through a special permit amendment to add this land area to their approval to establish the cemetery, which is an accessory use to the church. The primary concern of the diocese, of course, and I think probably yours as well, is to maintain the character of the church and the surrounding land. And I want to make it very clear that we're not proposing any modifications to that existing church that is there. There are no changes to the parking lot, to the driveways. There are no fences proposed. There are no other features proposed. So, we are leaving things as they are. We really agree with the standard number 3 of the guidelines for the St. Mary's Historic District, which is to maintain and enhance existing natural features and landscaping. So what we are doing here, we want to retain the natural contours of the property that's being brought into the church. We want to retain the landscaping that's there. We want to keep the informal landscaping that's mentioned in the guidelines along roadsides and property lines. So we really want to keep this in its natural condition. We think that is the best way to preserve the character of the church by keeping it with as little disturbance as possible. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood our proposal this evening, which is really to ensure that this is maintained as a natural area. What we are proposing is to install a columbarium for the internment of cremated remains. And this cemetery, I would mention, has been very important to St. Mary's because of burials and specifically needing a location for the burial of infants, sadly, stillborn or young children that have passed. They're really looking for opportunities to have burials for those individuals. We would like to install this columbarium with materials that will be reflective of the existing cemetery. The cemetery, you have granite tombstones, you have brick walkways. We have not selected a provider yet. So unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly what the materials will be, but they will be, as I say, complementary and reflective of existing conditions. The one feature that we do plan to install is a single statue. This would be kind of as you enter, and that statue would be on a concrete podium, a 3-foot concrete podium. It would be of natural colors and be of a human scale. And we have not yet selected, the image for that statue, but it would be in keeping with the character of St. Mary's and keeping in the character of the church and the proposed cemetery. So, we're asking for this land to be, considered part of the church, to be developed with the cemetery, but asking for flexibility in the few items that we're going to be installing here. And I will note that other than the columbarium, the rest of this natural area will be used for in-ground burial. And this is an image of, what the columbarium may look like. It will be installed in sections. Will be limited in those sections. These are shown on our special permit amendment plat. So it is very limited, but it will provide a much needed service to the parishioners in Fairfax County and specifically at St. Mary's. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. We would appreciate your recommendation so that we can proceed to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Strobel. First, before we get to any board member questions or comments, we need to open this item up for public comment. So if there is any member of the public that has a comment on this item for action, we need you to raise your hand, or we don't have any phone callers. So we need you to raise your hand to indicate if you have any comments. And if so, we'll give you those 3 minutes to share those comments. Not seeing in our attendees list, which is rather thin, anyone raising their hand. So with that in mind, I will turn it over to our members who might have any questions. Obviously, you can raise your hand, members, if you want me to call on you, or if you want to come off mic on your own, you're welcome to. I'm going to, before anyone jumps in, Denise, I have one question, and it may be as well for Ms. Strobel, but for both of you to potentially ask. While this one is an item for us to give recommendation to, I want to have clarification on whether or not following this, the columbariums constitute requiring a building permit and something that would come back to us, or if that is not something that requires a building permit requiring to go to the ARB. I want to know if this is our chance to comment on this in the proposed design, or will we see you again at the columbarium stage? Because the columbarium is a unique structure in comparison to many of the other ones we deal with.
I was just asking myself the same question and chatted Ryan to see if he knew. It is a 10-foot tall structure. I don't know the answer to that though. Perhaps Ms. Strobel knows the answer. Whether the columbarium will require a building permit.
I apologize. I'm embarrassed to say I do not, but Ms. McKinnon is on the line. I know that she has worked on maybe some other of these with the diocese, and she may know.
Hi there. Good evening. I am Anne Marie McKinnon. I'm with the Catholic Diocese of Arlington's Office of Planning and Construction. I'm here on behalf of St. Mary of Sorrows Parish. Thanks, Lynn. I can speak to that. The columbaria, we call each of them a cabinet, and they do not require a building permit because they're actually not 10 feet tall. They're just about 8 feet tall, so they're not classified as structures requiring a building permit. So they will be probably just a hair under 8 feet tall. So they don't rise to the level of structures requiring a building permit.
Okay, that is the information that I wanted to have that would help inform any ARB member comments on this application. So with that, I will turn it over to my other members. If anyone has a comment or question, you can raise your hand or indicate on the screen. I can see most of you, I believe, so let me know. Looking across the board. Oh, Mr. Plumpy, the floor is yours, sir.
Yes, hi. My name is Joe Plumpy. I'm the landscape architect on the board here, and I know Connie very well, so you're in good hands. What I was going to ask you, right now these structures are right at the property line, or looks like maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 feet from the property line. I know there's existing vegetation. Your elevation on sheet, it's on page three of your presentation, and it goes to it in there. And this is a winter shot, which I'm glad you did a winter shot. And unfortunately that's the shopping center in the background. And I'll be honest with you, I'm from the Midwest and land is flat. And unfortunately, my in-laws were buried by a self-storage facility less than 20 feet from their gravestones. So, and it's not a very good backdrop, but it is what it is. And I know this is not for approval, it's for recommendation. I guess there's any way possible. Before I state that, is that I know you need room for in-ground graves, so hence that's why this is pushed off to one side. Was there any rationale to have it pushed aside, just for conversation's sake, as opposed to the other side? Let's say the VFW, the VFW property, which is plan west of this. Just asking that question. So if you did it on the other side, you'd have a longer row of these perhaps, but then your backdrop maybe not be as challenging. Just throwing it out there.
Lynn, I can speak to that.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Thanks, Joe, for your observation. And you're right, Connie has really provided a lot of insights for us. So we located the columbaria along the side, which we did, to in some ways serve as a sort of a buffer, a wall, to the extent that we can. We are intending them to be just accessible from one side, from inside the existing cemetery. So their rear would be solid. People would not go around the other side. There are such things as dual access columbaria, where they can be accessed from both sides. That's not our
Right,
plan here.
right.
The columbarium, and again, Connie helped us to cite them. They're about 12 feet inside the property line. So we might be a smidge in the critical root zone, but we're not within the structural root zone. The intention of locating them where they are was to create a barrier from, the retail use that is next to us.
No, I gotcha. I'm just wondering, again, as you know, burial's a very solemn type service and so forth. I was just, you have unfortunately a backdrop what you have. I'm right now looking at your existing vegetation. It's trees, probably invasive species. I'm assuming that would be cleared out and probably some evergreen trees or something put there that would be able to grow with other trees. I don't know, I just thought maybe the other side, plan south, would be, maybe feel a little bit better, I guess.
We did look at putting them on the VFW side,
Sure.
and the
What's your
feedback we
rationale?
got from the parish was that it would feel like a barrier kind of to that, because they are also
I
an
gotcha.
institutional use, a community
gotcha.
benefit use. So
Good point.
it felt like it would be a barrier kind of to the community of uses. And the idea was it would form sort of a wall barrier with single side access
Sure.
if we located it where we have put it.
Understood. And okay, that's fair. It's interesting if that was a barrier there. I wonder if the backside of it could be ornated with something that kind of corresponds to the veterans of foreign wars. I'm not saying create a memorial for them behind there, but it's a two-sided feature versus a one-sided feature. Just thinking out loud, not trying to play designer here. Was just looking at what the backdrop of this is. So I guess I would recommend, if you do keep them here where you have them, more than just saving the existing trees, is really do enhance planting so that you have evergreens that would really help screen that out, and maybe could work with the property owner, because the property owner is kind of, I know this very, very well. I shop there. I live 6 miles from here, drive by here quite often. So my thought would be is maybe speaking with the neighboring people, the neighbor property owner, is, hey, can we work together to put some kind of intensive screening on that? And Lynn, I was just wondering, in the Fairfax County zoning ordinance, is there supposed to be a landscape buffer on the gentleman's property? Or does this predate the buffer requirements? Just asking a
It
question.
predates the commercial,
Okay,
I think
got it.
predates it. Yeah.
Got it. And because, as you know, that there's offices on the top part of that area. I know there's physical therapy up there. Did physical therapy a long time ago. So there's office windows that will overlook this area on top of the shopping center. So I guess I'd recommend the St. Mary's Parish to see if they can work some kind of comprehensive landscape plan that Connie does for you, that takes on both properties, that would help really give you a good buffer for both people, and that's if you don't want to move it, and I understand the barrier between the veterans of foreign wars and so forth. So that's all I have to say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your comments.
Yeah, sure.
Lynn, it's Connie here. If you don't mind, I'd like to address the question.
Go right ahead.
Okay, Joe, the use to the east is a commercial use. And this piece of land has a very residential feel to it. Within the county, by the way, our firm is rewriting the landscape zoning code right now, by the way. So we did a lot of study on that, because the neighbor next door, retail, is a more intensive commercial use. So they're required to put up this very thick landscape buffer. And typically, given how thin that buffer area is, and this is to the back of a retail use, so the architecture is not very tasteful, if you know what I'm talking about. Not very nice.
Understood. Yes. Yeah.
And early on, working with the parish, and we recognized, compared to the VFW facility to the south, which aesthetically is more compatible with this land after the building is torn down, between the two edges, we picked this edge specifically thinking that having a roughly 8-foot high barrier, it provides a more solid visual protection for the cemetery itself, which is a very solemn place for people who visit here. So we did take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you, Connie. I guess, and I understand your logic. I guess taking a step further is, would the applicant be open to discussing with the neighboring property to add buffer screening on both sides of that property line if you can't put it all on yours, so that there'd be an extensive evergreen screening that would help screen the existing shopping center. At least it's worth a conversation, maybe. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's fun. I think it's worth a conversation.
Yeah.
Again, we appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Mr. Burns, your hand is up.
Yeah, I look at the problem a little differently than the landscape architects. I look at that as an architectural issue. Maybe the simplest solution in the interim until any vegetation can grow is to offer to paint the back wall a dark color. Just edit it out.
The back wall of the shopping center?
Back wall of the shopping center. They have to paint that periodically. You might just offer that, hey, next time you paint it, why don't we make it forest green or something like that?
I think that is worth considering. We can certainly talk about that.
All right. Any more from you, John?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other ARB members with comments or questions? Elise, I thought I saw your hand, but I couldn't tell if you were touching the screen or not. Okay. All right. So I do have one or two, and then I'll throw it to the membership to discuss a motion. Since this is something that we won't see come back to us for a application because it won't require a building permit, would the applicant be amenable to our recommendation with the condition that we request you come back and present them the proposed design so that we can provide our observations and thoughts on it? Since you're dealing with a conceptual design right now, I think obviously we can't give a lot of input on certain aspects because we just don't know, but given that this is in a historic overlay district and it won't come back to us otherwise, I think even if it's not for an application because it won't require a building permit, coming back to the ARB to present that design and seeking our input on it would be very appreciated.
Let me just give you a little more information that may not have been particularly, communicated in the application, is that this is a very long-range planning project for the parish. I mean, as it is, we were here 6 or 7 years ago. I mean, a special permit, as you probably know, requires that you show the ultimate build out, so to speak, not that there's much building here, of your project. And then the implementation takes place over time. The columbaria are among the very long-term parts of this cemetery addition, because there's not really a great demand for them. And what we've shown is several cabinets over time, and we would anticipate, I mean, logically, it makes sense that you would start with the center and then move out from there. The intention is not to install them all at one time. In fact, that would be completely out of the parish's budget. That's just not even in the realm of possibility. So this would be very much in the future. In fact, I would be surprised if within 10 years you see all the columbaria cabinets installed. I think the first one, we're talking 2 or 3 years from now. So, I mean, if you have a long range view, that's fine. But I mean, so we'll be coming back at a time far in the future. So we'll encounter
I'm not against that concept. I guess the way I see it is, while this isn't a building per se by the county's definition, it is a structure that does occupy a large amount of space. And while I am very certain that the parish is going to select something that is very sensitive and appropriate, I also feel that being the steward of the HOD, that us giving our chance, if you all come back to us and seek our input on it, and I'm not saying seek our approval, but seek our input on it, can be helpful in making sure that what's selected is something that is in keeping, particularly given the fact that we are working on updating guidelines for all the HODs. We want to make sure that whatever this is, you know, trying to harmonize with that as best as possible. You know, I recognize that could be a long time in the future too.
Well, and I just want to be clear that we would be the intention. I mean, these are very expensive undertakings, so you need to know that you have, you know, a use and that the people will, you know, purchase a space before you can kind of undertake the
yes, absolutely,
the means and methods by which you're going to procure it. And we would be doing it over time. I assume you don't mean with every cabinet we'd need to come back.
Well, I would
because the idea is they'd be uniform.
After you picked one, it would probably be consistent each time.
It would be.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you told me no, each time we're going to pick a different cabinet, then I'd be like, okay, well, that we might want to talk about right now.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I think we can probably do that. Again, as Lynn was saying, we really, there's so many different means and methods of installation and casting of these and just it just depends who's available at the time and what the bids come back like, and I'm sure you're very familiar with, you know,
certainly, and that's
when you move from concept to design development, huge changes take. Right.
The way I envisioned it is at the time when the parish is considering installing one and going through that process at whatever time, that they might come and seek our input on what they're proposing to select. And we could provide it would be almost like a workshop session in that sense. It would be, here's what we're looking at, what is the ARB's observations or thoughts on it, and you know, that is what I'm thinking could be a benefit, recognizing that you wouldn't be coming each time, because likely once you picked one, it would probably be the standard for what you're going for. Recognizing in general, though, from the purpose and use, this is consistent with, you know, how this space would operate, and, you know, adding more space to a cemetery is, you know, it's going to continue the use and purpose. It's a different type of structure that is obviously now more common at various places. Unfortunately, having to know a lot about it now just because of a recent passing in my family. So it's definitely something that, you know, I understand that, but I'm not looking for hey, keep coming to us over and over each time. It's more of as stewards of this, I think we've discovered that when changes happen in HODs, if we at least have some awareness on it, as opposed to, hey, did you see the new columbarium is there? I think that would be more helpful for us to say, hey, we've provided our input on it, here's our observations, and if the parish wishes to take them and use them, that'd be great. If not,
and while I never like to pledge my parish's, you know, future costs of their professionals, I like the idea of doing it as a work session, because then, you know, my office at the diocese, we do have professional staff, and it is our job to assist our parishes in carrying out their missions. So if you would accept, you know, my legal and my colleagues' architectural conversations, then I think we could really. And you know, we'd be glad. We of course get bids and we do renderings and all that sort of thing. We're just not there yet.
Of course, I'm envisioning it as a recommend. If we recommended it, it'd be a condition with the applicant coming back to present at a work session of the proposed columbarium that they're considering when that time comes. Mr. Burns, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I note in the second sheet of the set of drawings that there are two options for the location of the proposed statue and base, and I'm wondering, should the ARB make a recommendation as to the preferred location?
I thought about that too, John, but I wasn't sure if anyone had a preference. I honestly don't know if I had one. So
may I offer a little background on why we tried to build in flexibility?
Sure.
And it's simply, again, the parish has not yet determined what the sacred image will be of that statue. And there's been some, you know, do you do there kind of a picture of an angel? Because as Lynn said, you know, we are going to make sure that there's cemetery space available tragically for, you know, infants or children who have been lost. And so there's some thought that maybe an image of an angel makes sense. And then, of course, it is St. Mary of Sorrows. And so then an image of Mary may make sense. And then the idea was, as you come in off Vogue Road, would you want the image to sort of be, at the what you might perceive as the entrance to the cemetery, or does it make sense to put it more toward the center to the extent we can, in light of the building or the location, the configuration, the geometry? So that's why we tried to build in flexibility. It would be, the statue would have the same parameters either way. It's just it kind of depends on the image selected, what would be most appropriate for the sighting. So that's why we built in 2 alternate sightings. They're not really that far apart locationally, but it's just once the image is selected, it might make more sense to put it more as an entry type feature as you walk into the cemetery or as you walk across from the existing cemetery.
May I suggest that if the parish comes back to us with a final design for the columbarium, that they do the same with the statue and its location?
My concern there is what would be the opining on the statue, because
its location. I don't care
the
about
location.
its aesthetics,
Okay.
its location.
Well, if you would again accept my, I hate to oblige my parish to more of their consultants' professional time for things that I can certainly handle. I assume we could do that. We could make a return visit to tell you this is what we decided for the location.
I don't necessarily, I think you coming on your own would be perfectly fine. I think really we're looking for that to give you that feedback as you go back to your parish decision. So it would be less of needing a professional expertise, more of this is what we're selecting, this is the location, and the ARB would share its thoughts with you to take back for your final decision process.
Okay. So if we chose a location and you don't like it, would the expectation be that we move it?
You're not getting a building permit from us, so you don't need, that's not required.
Well, I know, but we want to be respectful of
we
your
might
role.
say, hey, we would encourage you moving it back. Again, as you mentioned before, this is all this is long planning. So you might I can say, hey, we've changed our mind and we want to put it here.
Right.
And we might, I wish I could hypothesize with you what we might say, but I can't, just as you can't. We just want a chance to give you our input on the decision.
Okay. And we just try to build in the maximum flexibility, in light of constrained parish resources, that sort of thing.
Precisely. Mr. Plumpy, I saw you put your hand up.
Yeah, sure thing. Sorry, I had to take care of something. Mr. Burns, you said, hey, so do give them option, give an opinion on it. I'm going to stick my neck out here. I think option 1 seems to be more appropriate. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you. For its location, you have existing trees. It's going to be a better setting, especially even if you celebrate May Day St. Mary's. Mary's birthday or something like that. So, or the Immaculate Conception. I'm Catholic, so I know, and an altar boy from way back when, I know that we would do a lot of things with the different statuettes and so forth, for ceremonies and so forth. So I think it's more appropriate. Option 1, 2 cents. Okay. That's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Plumpy. I'm looking to see if there are any other members that have any other comments or questions. I'm not seeing any. So, Ms. McKinnon, you had any? I saw you come off mute a minute ago. I didn't know if you had any other questions. I didn't want to. Otherwise, I'm going to look for a motion.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, with that in mind, I would look for a member to make a motion. Remember, the chair cannot make motions. So, and with our vice chair out, it's all up to the rest of you to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I can make a motion.
All right, Ms. Orr, the floor is yours.
I move that the ARB recommend approval of action item ARB 23-SMC-03, located at 5612 Ox Road, Fairfax Station, tax map 077101 0029 in the St. Mary's Church HOD for the proposed amendment to SP 88-S-092 and VC 88-S-158 to add land area, install accessory improvements, and make site modifications associated with the proposed expansion of an existing cemetery as submitted and presented at the February 9th, 2023 ARB meeting. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Plumpy. Ms. Orr, may I offer a friendly amendment
Okay.
that we add the condition that the applicant return to the ARB in the future at the appropriate time to host a workshop session with us about the design of the proposed columbaria and statue location or monument location.
I accept that.
Is that accepted by you, Ms. Orr?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to make sure it's accepted by Kay too.
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Yep.
And I okay. Ms. McKinnon, that sounds like what we talked about. I want to make sure I'm
Yeah,
phrasing- okay.
I don't exactly know the procedure. Or, I'm sorry, I don't want to enter discussion.
I know. I just want to make sure that, we talked about it. I provided that. I wanted to make sure that when I made that amendment, that wasn't, sounded like what we consistently talked about, that in the future you'd come to a workshop session.
Mr. Daniel, can you clarify that just means a workshop session, not an approval?
Yes, a workshop session, not for approval.
Okay. All right, thank you.
There you go. All right, and that was accepted by Ms. Orr and Mr. Plumpy, the motion makers. All right, we have a motion with a friendly amendment from your chair. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes for our recommendation.
Thank you
Ms.
very
Strobel.
much.
Thank you, Ms.
Thanks
McKenna.
for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
We
very
appreciate
much.
your time.
Thank you.
All right. Onward and upward. Let's see. That brings us on to item number 2 for action, which is ARB 23 HOL 04 7204 Beechwood Drive Edition. Located at 7204 Beechwood Drive in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District. The applicant is proposing the interior renovation of an existing kitchen, and a half bath relocation and mechanical systems, an addition of the entry foyer and the north end of the existing structure, an addition over the back and south end of the existing lower structure, including a primary suite, living space, and relocation of the first floor half bath. Jeremiah Huff represents the application. Mr. Huff, are you here with us? Oh, there you are.
I'm on. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Burns, I know you need to read a statement. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Hang on a second while I open it up here.
We just need to pre-record you reading it and we just play it every time.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I, John Burns, under Virginia Code Section 2.2-3112B1 and 2.2-311H, declare my personal interest in transactions brought before the Architectural Review Board involving the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District, and specifically state the following for the February 9th, 2023 ARB meeting. 1. Action item ARB 23-HOL-04, located at 7204 Beechwood Road, involves the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District. 2. The nature of my personal interest is that I own and reside in a home that is valued at over $5,000 and is located in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District. 3. I am a member of a group of 3 or more persons who are members of which are affected by the transactions. And 4, I am able to participate in the transaction fairly, objectively, and in the public interest. And 5, regarding action item ARB-HOL-03, located at 7216 Rebecca Drive, my wife and I are personal friends of the applicants, and I will recuse myself from consideration of their application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burns. All right, with that out of the way, Mr. Huff, I know you came to us in the, or Hoof, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. You came to us previously, but yes, you've got your screen share up. We can see your presentation.
Hoof, yeah.
Hoof, sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, Hoof, yeah. No problem. Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen here, walk you through the updates. Try to do this pretty quick. Okay, so yeah, we're working on the renovation and addition of our home at 7204 Beechwood. Exit full screen there. Remind you of the location. We are in Holland Hills, just south of Old Town, down here where the little pink dot is. And our plot is on the east side of Holland Hills, over here. Here's some of the concept drawings that we brought forth previously in the earlier workshop. Not too much has changed. The footprint and structures remain the same. We'd have more refinements, and we only have some more refinements to talk about at the end. To walk you through some of those updates on the first floor, here's the front entry, which we've more well defined as the similar landing pad to the existing, rotated, but it's a similar amount of space. And then you enter, and we have the new entry with a closet space. And then on the back, we are going to keep the existing addition that's on the west side. It helps to make space for the stair here, which will be located in the middle of the west side. And this addition of the storage is all new here. You can see in the second floor plan how the entry roof is extruding out a little bit to give us a little bit of extra landing space there. In the second floor, not too much has changed here. We just refined the interior and kind of value size the need of the extra space up here. Some of the existing elevations and materials give you a sense of the existing colors. And then our proposed updates that all the existing materials will stay as the T111 siding. We're going with a black kind of caviar color. And then for all the new work, we're looking to do a tongue and groove cedar siding, which will stain a Bayan brown. And you can see in precedent images here how that's a similar kind of vertical black and then a horizontal stained wood. And some comparisons of those existing elevations to the new. These views up here are the street-facing sides. Some site sections give you a sense of the scale. Basically, this area here is the existing. The new entry here on the right, and then the new second story above the back south side. And here's the section below through that second story addition at the south. The width of it here, this area here is roughly the existing. So we're coming out about 9 feet for that storage, which helps support that perpendicular second story. And then we want to elongate that feel of that second story. So this deck on the west side is framed out to give a sense of more linear, floating through the trees, Charles Goodman feel. You can see here we have some view comparisons of an existing photograph from that north side street view. We are elevated up off the street, so we have quite a bit of a hill here to our front entry. The entry right now is this right here where my cursor is. This would be what the new view would look like from the model. And then from that more perpendicular angle from the east, you see that's where our driveway is currently, and it goes straight up to the front door entry. And here on the right is the model view showing that protrusion out from that side. Then I will bring over another view here. We are actually working on probably dropping that front entry down a foot or a step to bring that roof line below the existing. So it's something more of a later development. So just showing the model view here of what that might look like. But that's not currently reflected in our drawings. So, and that's the end. I'll open it up to comments.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hoof. Before we get to member comments and questions, we have to open the floor up to any member of the public that might have a comment on this application. So if there is any member of the public that's attending this meeting that would like to comment, please raise your hand and we'll give you a chance to speak. Not seeing any. And given the other two of the names in the chat are the other two applicants, and the names of the applicant coming up, I don't think we have any members of the public.
I got to change it.
So with that in mind, I think I'll turn it over to our members. If any comments or questions from Mr. Fu. So again, use the teams to raise your hand or indicate on the screen. I'm just trying to keep my eye out to see if anyone's got their hand up on this one. Okay, Steve, I think yes, I see your hand, Mr. Kalinsky. Oh, you're muted though, Steve.
All right, thank you, Mr. Daniel. Sorry about that. Looking at the development of the project and looking back at the materials from the earlier workshops, I think this has progressed very well. I think the little, let's say, the reaction to all our comments, positive, move the bulk towards the back of the building, preserve the view of the original facade with some modifications. I particularly like the modification that Mr. I'm sorry if I screw this up. Huth,
yeah, that's right.
Okay. Sorry. All right, good. Is done with just lowering the entry roof just a little bit below the original house. Yeah, that works. I mean, this is in the spirit of the Goodman design, and I think it complements it well.
No, I can't take credit for that. That's Mr. Burns.
Okay, well, somebody is very well versed in it, so it works very well. I'm ready to throw my hat in the ring and approve it.
Ms. Swan, I see you have a comment as well.
Yes. I agree with the comment that I think all the massing and the refinement really appropriate for this site. So I'm very happy to see the progress.
Thank you.
I have to agree with my fellow board members. This is a sensitive addition I'm seeing. I think that's been the real nut that a lot of folks have been trying to crack in Holland Hills, is how to do something in a way that, as I think Mr. Kalinsky put it, is in the spirit of the Goodman design and the mindset there, and not overwhelming the original property, which I think is a struggle given the size of these buildings originally. It definitely is a balance that has to be struck. But yes, I agree. I'm happy to have seen this one progress through all that it has. So I don't have any further comments. I'll do one last call out for if there are any members that have any comments. Mr. Burns, your hand's up, but I thought you had to recuse yourself.
Not on this one, Mr. Chairman. It's the next one.
It's the next one. Okay. All right.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes. Okay. Yes, I will acknowledge that in mid-January, as my mind was elsewhere, Mr. Huth had sent his plans to me, and I had suggested that, as he had with most of the design here, he take advantage of the topography and work it to his advantage. And from that, he pushed the taller portion back uphill. And we see that as a very significant change from the initial design we saw in a workshop last year. And I suggested also that to take advantage of the topography to get his extended overhang to protect the entrance of the front door from adverse weather is that he dropped that entry foyer down a couple of steps below the grade of the original house, and then that makes it less of a climb up the hill from the street and the head of his driveway. And so I commend him for since this afternoon, he's already produced a rendering that shows the step down entrance, and I commend that. And I think that this is a very approvable design that is respectful of the original house and acknowledges the difficult topographic conditions he has to work with. And I would recommend approval of it as modified.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Ms. Murray, I see your hand up as well.
That was basically my question, was the plans that we have in front of us do not include the modification. So the motion today, question mark, should the motion include the fact that it's modified and the plans need to come back to staff?
I think that is a fair recommendation. We could even go so far as to emphasize that change if you really want to in particular, but I think that as presented and then with the requirement that the design set go back to the Heritage Resource staff.
Okay.
Ms. Orr, I see your hand up.
This is more for the staff. We are really not approving their interior renovations of the kitchen, the half bath. You know, there's a lot of stuff in here that are not in our purview. You know, we don't discuss where they're going to put their first half bath and laundry. And so I'm not sure why they're part of the approval wording is my question. And that would be to Denise, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree that. So that I'm going to look back on the actual motion here. Is that all part of the motion?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the agenda is pulled directly from their plus application. And then of course I just pulled exactly what they put in their plus application into the motion. But I think that's a fair point, Kay, that things that are not within your purview probably ought to not be in the motion.
Right.
Could we just call it for proposed addition and exterior modifications? Because that is our purview.
Yeah, that would probably be what very similar to something. If I was going to edit this, it would be edited down to something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a good catch, Kay. And I was thinking about it as I was reading it aloud, parroting the items on the list, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot of stuff here that I'm saying. But I just read it as this is all changes that are changing the exterior form of the building in some way. So, but yeah, I think if we could tweak it to addition and exterior modifications, then we save ourselves the formality of saying we're commenting on somebody's rearrangement of their interior of their home.
Right.
All right. Mr. Burns, you have your hand back up.
Yes. Are we ready for a motion? I think I'll take a crack.
You read my mind. I didn't look like we had any other comments. So yes, I would entertain a motion if you're ready to make one.
Let me give it a crack. Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB 23-HOL-04, located at 7204 Beechwood Road, Alexandria, tax map 093304, lot 0217, in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District, for the proposed addition of an entry foyer on the north end of the existing structure, an addition over the back south end of the existing structure, as submitted and presented at the February 9, 2023 ARB meeting. Subject to the following conditions: that the applicant submit drawings for approval by the ARB administrator specifying the changes of the lowered level of the entrance foyer as presented in a rendering at the February 9th meeting for approval. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101, historic overlay districts.
Second.
Oh, and seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in
Well
favor
done.
indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Hoof. Look
Thank you.
forward to hearing about the project and seeing the final thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, that takes us on to our last item for action. And this, Mr. Burns, is the one you have to recuse yourself from, if I understand correctly. All right. He's already vanished, I think, so perhaps so. This one is ARB 23 HOL 03 7216 Rebecca Drive addition. This is in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District. The applicant's proposing a 480 square foot single story addition to a single story house. Frank Wilcoxon is representing the application. I see him right there. Mr. Wilcoxon, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Nice to be here again. Nice to see you all again. Want to start off by thank. We was in here for in November 10th of 2020, and I believe it went really well, at least from my opinion. Your board here gave some wonderful comments, and based from those comments we received from you, we implemented and prepared some final permit drawings, sent those in. It's the exact set of drawings that I sent. And as of this evening, we have been approved for zoning, site, and building. Thanking you all very much for the right direction and getting us over that.
Mr. Wilcoxon, just to let you know, every once in a while your volume is dropping out for us.
Interesting. Maybe I should
slightly.
Maybe I should sit a bit closer. I don't want to get my mug too close to you guys here, but maybe I'll talk better. Is this any better?
Yes, and I think
good.
we heard that. I think we got what you said. We didn't lose you completely. I just wanted to give you a heads up before you started talking about anything in particular. You were breaking up just a little bit.
Thank you. Just a quick summary. It was your board. From the comments you gave for the work session meeting back in November, implemented those comments into the final permit draw, and we have, as of today, been approved for permit for site, building, and zoning. So thank you very much. I'll go ahead and share my screen and kind of walk you through some of the developments. Can you guys see the screen here?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So just a real quick, again, this is live from Google Earth. This is where Popkins tees into Rebecca. We are sited on the top of Rebecca, and the proposed addition is going to see this gable form. Our roof line is going to come right back here, and it's going to miss this tree. There's no trees to be taken out. One of the reasons I wanted to show this image is we are fortunate enough to have these tall trees and bushes and landscaping that separate us from our neighbors on this side. And then looking back, there is a 6-foot tall wooden fence that separates us from the adjacent property, not Holland Hills. You can that this is not Holland Hills. And then over on this side, we are fortunate enough, again, to have great landscaping elements that separate us from our neighbor. So I just wanted to bring that up and show you that as we're going. And also, it was great to listen in to those two previous items. If I heard you correctly, Christopher, I thought there was 5 minutes for new items and 3 minutes. I'm glad to have more than 3 minutes to walk you through. Thinking I was going to have to speak really quickly, but
we're doing good on time today, so we're pretty flexible right now at this moment.
Fantastic. These are my notes from our work session back in November 10th. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we
Am I-
can. It
I'm coming-
occasionally still cuts out. I mean, it is just every so often. Am I the only one who's hearing that, or is everyone else hearing
No,
that?
my wife Elma is also on the call, and she's texting me, letting me know that the cutting in and out. So I'll just keep my face leaning in here. Anyways, these are the notes, the comments that I received from your board from the last meeting. Read through them, and then if I may kind of show you how we've addressed them. Number one, elevations needed. For the next ARB meeting, exist and proposed exterior elevation. The existing exterior elevations are needed for the ARB to see contextual relationship to the proposed. So we have done that in the set of drawings that we sent in for this ARB meeting as well as permit, and I can walk you through those in a moment. And I believe that Samantha made the comment to hide all landscape and site features. On the previous work session, showing some landscape to show that we had it as a kind of a buffer. But all these trees and landscape things have been hid in these drawings to give a of our proposed addition and the existing. So thank you for that comment. Number three, zoning restrictions related to the eaves. On the previous submission, we were kind of maximizing going right to the 15-foot setback line. And if you'll remember our backyard that goes up about 3 feet, and we were trying to keep the eave lines exactly the same and have everything really tight. However, that was not going to be able to happen. Our eaves are 3 feet wide, and we're allowed, 36 inches, but only if that eave is 10 foot minimum above finished grade. And that just wasn't going to happen. And we looked at it several different ways. And each time we tried to work it out, it just kind of, context of the design. So we finally pulled our building foot from the setback line to be able to get still not a 3-foot eave for the set at all. And again, I can show you that when we go through. A fourth comment we received from the previous work session was the retaining wall to see some precedent imaging. There is again retaining wall in the backyard. It is not visible on the street, and it is any of the neighbor. The only vantage point this retaining wall is visible is from our backyard. However, to show other Holland Hills retaining walls and try to work. And we've taken several field trips, walking tours through our neighborhood, and there is quite a wide array of different materiality for retaining walls. And I have some photographs to walk you through those, as well as a board form concrete retaining wall just 2 from us, so I can show the context for that. A fifth comment was we received, I think was one of the major ones, was to resolve the roof line room. I'll walk you through these designs, but we really did. We have a contractor on board and worked with them, and I believe we've tied in this roof form, and it's completely resolved and much better than it did, at least in our opinion, our previous work session back in November. Comments 6 and 7, they're pretty similar, just needed more details in our set for this meeting, and basically a full permit set. So that's what we've done. Comments, we've developed a full permit set of drawings, which I can walk you through. Thank you for your comments, and they were fantastic, and they help us get earlier today. let me see if I can quickly walk you through the updated set of drawings. And you guys are still seeing the screen, correct?
Yes, we're still seeing your screen.
Fantastic. So I'm going to try to make this as big as I can, but able for me to page through it. So you guys, the plat, the proposed addition and some the site disturbance. And one of the aspects, we kind of reduced the length of our retaining wall for one of to kind of your comments that came, and I can show you how that works. I'm not going to go through all these details. Permit set that has been approved. It's also the set that I went ahead and submitted to the ARB. So I'm sure you have these. I don't waste your time going through each page, but I do want to kind of focus on some of these major items. What you're looking at here is our existing conditions. The gray is obviously not in bedroom, our existing kitchen, and our existing deck, and our addition is coming back here. So this is just showing the text of our conditions. Obviously, well, not obviously, but the dashed is demo, and this is existing to remain. The next sheet is very helpful. It is this larger area for the enlarged kitchen. This will be the dining area, and this is going to be our bedroom office with a toilet room, and doesn't really show in the property. Here, if you can see my cursor, was right on the 15-foot, and that was causing the eave to go over the setback. So we offset so that eave wouldn't hang over into past the offset. All right. Here is this plan, this floor plan really gives a good feel for what the space is going to be used as. This was our existing kitchen. It's going to be have kind of the racetrack, as we call it, a circular floor plan. And then our kitchen with a little eating nook right in here, bedroom, office with a little bathroom. Again, our existing sheds, I can show you those in the picture again, existing deck to remain, and then a new, this part of the deck right here is existing. I'm not sure how much of it will still be existing with the construction, but we're hoping to keep as much of it existing to remain as possible. And then this portion would be a new deck. The previous session, this retaining wall actually came over here and was squared off with the edge of our existing structure. And we've brought it back for several reasons, but we heard your comments about materiality and just wanted to be sensitive. So we brought this back. So it's never noticeable from the neighbors before, but it's much less noticeable now. So I hope there won't be any concerns with the material. Retaining wall, again, 3 feet tall, and our proposed material and form is board formed concrete. Little RCP kind of going through roof form. So this is, see this offset here? This is the result of us bringing back to be offset. The eave right here, basically, if this line of the eave extended straight back to this addition, which was what we originally proposed, when it occur, this small portion of the eave than 10 feet above grade. It would have been about 6-7 feet above grade, but we would have had to go for a variance, and that just seemed like a long drawn out process. So we decided to modify the design. So these are the roof lines. We absolutely wanted to keep symmetry from this view right here, meaning the ridge is balanced and symmetrical as existing. But again, this line has been brought back just to avoid any. Basically a shed roof that's at a 1 to 12 pitch that comes to meet the eave line right here. Here are the here. So this is.
We lost you for a significant portion right there.
Oh, and hear my talk.
We
about
heard your
the roof
spiel
line?
about this. Yes, when you went into the elevations. Your mic just hates you. I don't know why.
And it's weird. I use this. It's a MacBook Pro, and I use it basically every day for work. I have Teams meetings, and it seems to work fine. I use Teams every day. I love it, and I usually can kind of sit back in my chair and talk. But I'll work. So this is the existing exterior elevation with the new back right here. This would be from the street view. Up Rebecca and coming to Rebecca, this would be our street view, our facade. I'm just gonna, well, you don't need to see it. Well, maybe real quick. Again, this would be from right here, looking straight at the house right here. That's the view you would see. So this is existing to remain, and here is our addition. I don't see too much from the street. It's definitely submissive to the existing architecture. It blends in really well, and in our opinion, it's not. You can barely see it from the street as well as the neighbors. A bit of some sight there. This would be the elevator, which is our backyard, the rear yard. So you're looking kind of a section / elevation. The retaining wall, and again, work session back in November of last year, this retaining wall extended and ended to be in line with the facade right here. Just from the comments we received from you guys, we went ahead and brought it back. And again, I just want to point out that this retaining wall is not from anywhere other than right in this courtyard or from our home. You can't see it from anywhere else. With the modifications to this portion of the toilet room, we still maintained, we are still achieving the existing roof slopes. The ridge has come down a little bit, still matching the slopes. That's because our addition got a little bit skinnier, but I think it works well, works in harmony. And you can see how the roof together here. It actually plays well, this whole kind of tapestry with the our shed, our existing shed, but it works well. This is a very minimal 1 in 12 pitch as well. So I believe the composition from a rear yard, it looks really nice. We're keeping the same fenestration, the same rhythm as parts of the home. So I think very nicely. To keep on going, view from the south. So as you're looking, this would be our backyard. This is the side yard. And again, Rebecca, the street is right along over here. So this part of the addition, not visible from the street, and it's not is immediately to the north, nor from the south, but this is the south elevation. You can see how we're still matching the fenestration, the existing good. Is that retaining wall? It's actually measuring 4 feet. I think it may be a bit generous, but we definitely want this retaining wall to come up a little proud of the soil, because this retaining wall actually ties in, and for this addition will be on top of the wall. So it's just for flashing and waterproofing and whatnot. It will sit up a little bit, plus or minus 3 feet, 4 feet. But we had a structural engineer on board, and that's all detailed. But just wanted to be transparent. It is 4 feet here. Grade, not from the deck. But either way, this is the composition of the south. Again, siding to the existing new slope roof, the materiality and the slope to match the existing. We feel it ties very nicely. Moving along, this is from the north. Again, Rebecca would be going this here. This is our backyard. This is not Holland Hills. That 6-foot tall wooden fence I showed previously would be right around back in here. And our neighbors to the tall bushes and trees along the property line that kind of shield us. To match the existing, I'm sure you all are very skilled at reading drawings, but the green here is shaded as existing, proposed. To match the existing, here's that retaining wall as it comes over and drops down. New painted T111. Here is that roof form that we, after your comments from the November work session, and works nicely. Roof. This gives a good idea of how that all comes together. And then some site sections. These can be helpful. Are you guys able to read my screen, or is it too small? Or can you see it okay?
We can see your screen, but we also have the plans that you sent to us. So
oh, perfect. That's great. Thank you. So here's that retaining wall, which we discussed. It looks like it's sitting more than I was anticipating above finished grade, but you know, we can work those details out. It shows that relationship, absolutely. We're going to be framing up on top of it, and this is that new toilet room, and you can see how that roof ties in nicely cable form that we have. Another building section looking the other way. And actually, you know what? This actually reads perfectly because at this view, the grade here is coming down towards us. So there will be a bit more meat of this retaining wall. This is that section view coming right from our backyard where it sits close to it. Again, I think that I would like to have a comment here where I would like this concrete to set up a bit proud relative to the existing grade and water retaining wall to the earth and to our structure. And then just more details. You have large plans. Here's a toilet room, the kitchen, and time talking about those. We do have a contractor on board, well versed in Holland Hills. I'm hoping that we can get on their schedule, and if you the ARB approves this, to get on their schedule and hopefully have this built. My goal is to have it completed Thanksgiving of this year. I see no reason why construction shouldn't take any more than 4 months, but the world's a crazy time right now, so I would like to start construction as soon as possible. And again, we do have structural drawings. I'm certainly not going to go into the structural drawings as this is the historic overlay district and the architectural review board.
Since you've walked us through that, then why don't we go to see if members have questions or comments, unless there was any other items you wanted to present on. I think you've I think you've given us a pretty thorough presentation on the various items.
Sure. Real quickly, I could just one of my bits of homework officially was to go and show kind of the retaining wall. Board form concrete retaining wall, which is 2 houses down from us on Rebecca, and this is an enlarged one, and this is the style that we'd really like to go with. And this actually, it's almost the exact same wall. It's about 3 board formed in vertical orientation. And again, this is 2 houses down from us in their front yard. Ours would be in the rear. You would never see it, but this is just what we're going for. And again, I didn't want to be too creepy walking through. But I did it. Felt kind of weird, but you know, I wanted to get this in front of you guys. And these are just examples of different retaining walls in Holland Hills. And after these field trips, you guys can see that certainly a wide range of materiality, from, veneer stack, wood, looks like some slate on CMU backup, some timber, there's some heavy timber. And then again, these are some precedent images of board form concrete that I wanted just to put out there to show this is kind of what we had in mind. But this one would be the closest for what we're going for. So having said that, I will now put it back to you guys to see what you have to say.
All right. Well, before we do that, obviously we open it up for any member of the public that has a comment on this item for action. Considering Ms. Barbara Ward is the only other attendee, I get the feeling we don't have any members of the public to have a comment, unless Ms. Ward, you have a comment. And I think Barbara just sits in on these, obviously. Oh, Barbara, your hand went up. So obviously, by all means.
Barbara, I just made you a presenter so you
just
can
have
speak.
to unmute yourself.
This matter has been presented to the DRC for its conceptual approval, which was granted last, I believe it was October or November, I'm not precisely sure. And I look
Correct.
forward to Mr. Wilcoxon presenting it in final form. We have plenty of room on next month's calendar, so I look forward to that as well. It's a very interesting design, and he's absolutely right. The house is sort of at the peak of many roads, and it's a crossroads in Holland Hills. So its design is important. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for that comment. And it is, we have one of the busiest intersections in Holland Hills.
Just as long as they stay on your on the other side of your little a tree fence there, that's a good thing.
Yeah. This definitely keeps the kids in the front yard, so doing its purpose, and the headlights out of our living room too.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you at the DRC.
Thank you for coming back to the DRC.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Ward. That was our only attendee, so there can be no other members of the public that have a comment on this. So I will go to the ARB membership. Ms. Swan, your hand is up.
Hi. Thank you for the presentation. Mr. Wilcoxon, I look at the folder where put all your submission package, and notice that the site plan, the outdoor lighting plan, the landscape plan, the grading plan, they all the same file. And so it doesn't seem that we have those drawings from you. Is that correct?
Correct, Samantha. When I went to upload the permit submission, I was reading the directions on on Fairfax County's ARB website and trying to follow everything to the T. I uploaded the PDF as a single PDF, which included everything you see in front of you, and then I went to go further, and it gave me an error. For instance, I don't have a plat, and that was part of those. So let me see what I can do. And I tried to separate the PDFs and upload one as just the, but then it recognized the sheet number and it said you've already uploaded. So I were how to get around that, and I sent some questions to some helpers in your organization with a specific question, and the answer, I don't want to give a quote, but the answer was sometimes all of the things that are asked to be required are specifically required for the ARB submission. So I uploaded everything that I had, and hopefully that will be sufficient. For instance, there was one of the things that was asking for was a signage drawing. I don't have a signage drawing, and I don't think this would be applicable for a signage drawing. As far as I believe we're going to be proposing additional exterior lighting. See my screen, we have a porch light here, but I don't believe we're going to be adding any additional exterior lighting. We do have some porch lights around the back of our house, and those would probably be sufficient. And the grading plan, we are doing minimal site work that I'm not sure a grading plan would be required. But again, I can put you to see what you guys think.
Denise, do you have any
So,
context
yeah,
for that?
I was about to, to chime in and just to let everybody, help everybody understand. So apparently the Plus system requires an applicant to submit each portion of the potential application, whether it's applicable or not. So I'm not sure that I spoke to I'm sorry, the applicant or not, Mr. Wilcoxon specifically, but what I've just been recommending is if it doesn't apply, just upload an 8.5 by 11 sheet that just says not applicable. So I'm not sure what Mr. Wilcoxon actually submitted, but what he's saying is that he submitted his entire application as one sheet,
But we're just seeing it several times over.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So,
And I you on the spot, Denise. I did have a conversation with Denise. I was reaching out for help, saying, "What do I do? I can't submit it." And it was a couple deadline, and she did help me with it, and I did the best I could. But that's correct. And thank you, Denise, for that help.
Oh, sure. No problem. It's navigating the Plus system. Everybody, it's all new to everybody. I'm hoping that we have an opportunity to revisit the way the ARB applications are making everybody submit every possible sheet. But at the moment, they're very busy with the building applications and the zoning applications, and we're sort of being told we'll get to you, but we've got to put out some other fires right now. So
understood. And for the record, the work submission was very intuitive and was very easy to upload. And again, Denise, I think that was per your instructions. You shared several phone calls and you kind of walked me. It's very simple relative to this official ARB one. It was much more cumbersome.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure how to get through it. So again, thank you for your guidance through the.
So Samantha, I just want to make sure we got to your question, because I know we have several submissions here, but they're all the same submission. From what I'm understanding, we have all the materials that the applicant was submitting with the drawings, cross sections. Was there something you thought that was missing, or was it just the confusion about the multiple files?
I think it's both. I do looking for the landscape plan. I do looking for the grading plan. And so I saw the file name, I click on into it. I didn't saw the sheet. That's why I have this question. So I want to make sure. So this submission is made to ARB workshop, is not the building permit.
Now, this is an application for our approval, Samantha.
Correct. Yeah. So the work session was a separate package I put together and submitted in November. However, sorry, my little kitten here is trying to get a cameo. The package that I submitted for this ARB official session is the exact package that I submitted for permit. I submitted for permit a couple days after the exact same PDF, and that was a little bit easier. It was just one PDF that I uploaded, and then I could just click. It contained. I would click a button with what it had and what it didn't have. And then they said they would get back to me if they needed anything. And then I received an email that said, okay, we need your permit. I'm not going to review it. Then I paid the permit fees. And then it was actually, we were watching online and several things were being approved. today it was all approved. But again, just to point out that was verbatim the same PDF that I submitted for this presentation right here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha.
Mr. Daniels,
Yes, Mr. Kalinsky.
I'm ready to make a motion for approval. Is there anybody who has any more comments?
I'm just gonna throw a comment out here that it's nothing on the applicant, but I'm pretty darn frustrated to hear that you got it approved and we're about to vote to approve, which they shouldn't give you an approval until they have our approval.
Mr. Christopher, I was thinking the same thing because I've actually reached out to Denise many times, and before I even submitted for the work session, I was getting legit. And I was informed, I was told that they for permit that they would have to reach out to you guys. But one of the comments I received from you was that when I come back in for the final ARB was to have a full set of permit drawings. So I put it in just to get it would be approved this.
Yeah, no, I'm not, and I hold nothing against you for doing that. You did, anyways. That was my only comment, Mr. Kalinsky, I was going to have. So
okay, so if we could, I think we should take that up internally. So
yes.
So I'd like to make a motion then. Mr. Chairman, I move that ARB approve action item ARB 23-HOL-03 located at 7216 Rebecca Drive, Alexandria, tax map 0933050016 in the Holland Hills HOD for the proposed 480 square foot single-story addition to a single-story existing house as submitted and presented at the February 9, 2023 ARB meeting. Upon review, the materials of proposals found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101-historic overlay districts.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ms. Swan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. So we saved the building permits butts this time.
I won't say anything.
Oh, well, don't worry, we'll do the saying. But yeah, Mr. Wilcoxon, thank you for coming back. Thank you for providing that breakdown of responses to our comments from the workshop. We really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And Denise will get back with you. I guess potentially not, since your permit's already approved. So look forward to hearing about the project. Hopefully you can get on your list.
Fantastic. We hope I can get on the contractors list and get a. So really appreciate your input. And again, thank you for your initial input because I really think that helped me kind of expedite the process. So thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right. That takes us out of our items for action. As you all well know, we do not have any items for workshop because next week we will be having a workshop session only bonanza. Tons of fun there. I'll just say thank you to you all for accommodating that request. We got into a situation in which we were going to have 5 workshop applications and 5 applications for review. And I think out of respect for everyone's time in talking to Denise, it would be easier if we did that. Broke them up. Miss Aubrey also provided a suggestion, which I was already thinking of, is we are going to limit each of those to 30 minutes. They will have 30 minutes for their presentation and our conversation total. And then at that point, we're going to move on. So I will judiciously hold them to that time frame. But I just wanted to give you all a heads up on that. What brought that on? Denise came to me and said, I am inundated with requests. I don't know what to do.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Daniel, that last presentation lasted about 45 minutes.
It did.
We need to hold tight to that 8-minute presentation requirement.
Thank you.
Well,
Steve.
if I could add, I noticed he had 27 slides. And when you have 27 slides plus all of the other, conversation that went along with it, already you're at least a minimum of a half an hour. So maybe we need to make some other recommendations, recommending not 27 slides.
I think it'll get easier, Michelle, when I think it'll get easier when we're in the room together. I will say, I also would encourage any of you at any time are welcome to chime in and say, Mr. Chairman, I would like to request we move on. Not that we're going to be doing too many of those, but I will just, my mind was a little bit elsewhere on this one. So I apologize if I didn't move this
I'm
along.
sorry. I was looking for a chat function to be able to put it out there. I didn't want to, I didn't think it was appropriate to interrupt, but I was looking for a chat function and I couldn't find one on Microsoft Teams meeting.
Don't worry, I already told Denise we're all going to get gavels when we get back together, so everyone can just smack a gavel on the table. We're all meeting in the same room.
He was a difficult applicant because I think he's one of those people who can't say anything in a straightforward manner. So we need to train our applicants to be
Don't
straightforward.
forget we're being recorded.
I know, I'm willing to say it.
You are.
Publicly.
I know. I'm just reminding you.
We just need to enforce our limit that we have in place. And maybe a
I
timer.
agree.
Maybe a buzzer.
Buzzer. I think it'll be a little. I think it'll be a little easier when we're in the same room because it'll be less of a technology snafu. We can't hear you. Hold on a second. That all adds up. But anyways, let's move on. Let's move on. Dally. We have no presentation today. Board and staff items. Review and action on approval of the previous month's minutes. Mr. Burns. Is Mr. Burns back? Did we lose him permanently? There he is. Okay. All right. So does anyone have any comments on the previous month's minutes? All right. I'm not seeing any comments on those. If no one does, then I would entertain a motion to approve them and pay the recording secretary.
I move the ARB approve the January 12, 2023 meeting minutes and pay the clerk, Ryan Johnson.
All right. There's a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Swan. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Treasurer's report. Our treasury account shows us at $22,515.96 as of the 27th of January. Any other observations on that, Denise?
No, just that Ryan's pay hit twice in this past month where he was not paid in the previous month. That's why there's a large, not discrepancy, but a large change in the amount.
All right. Administrative, Heritage Resource Planner 2 update.
Oh, I wish I had news at this time, but I don't. I was hopeful. I put it on the agenda, but I'm sorry, I don't have an update at this time, but I do have 2 additional items to add to the administrative.
I figured you did.
Yeah. So the first is, as we've discussed, that there will be a second meeting held over Teams on Monday, a special meeting on Monday, February 13th at 6:30 to accommodate the caseload received in February. And thank you all for your prompt reply and enabling me to get that meeting scheduled as quickly as we did. And then the second item is that the Board of Supervisors determined on Tuesday that the county's declaration of emergency will end on March 1st. And that means that the Architectural Review Board, starting with the March meeting, will be back in person. And that meeting will be held in rooms 9 and 10 of the Government Center at 6:30 on the second Thursday of the month.
On the 9th of March?
Yes.
On my wife's birthday?
Oh no.
Man. Oh boy.
No.
Oh, I got to go upstairs and deliver some bad news. You might have been deposed by then. The tragic passing of Chairman Chris Daniel. Anyways, yes. So we will be meeting again. I would say, Denise, please, I would do a reminder email to everybody on the information on that.
In person.
Give yourself plenty of time. I will say I have talked to Denise though about when now that we're going back to this, that we should try to accommodate hosting the ARB meetings at several different locations around the county, particularly in consideration of our friends in the southern portion of the county, that maybe we should try to host down there, particularly because we do a lot of Holland Hills reviews. So maybe if we had something down there, that would be, I think, considerate. We've done it in the past. So that was a suggestion that I made to her as we start putting together our schedule moving forward. And John, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, thanks, Chris. Okay, if we're going back to meeting in person, for 3 years, we've only been receiving these materials in digital form. So how will we review these materials and an in-person meeting? Will the county have giant screens available to project things, or will they give us laptops so we can review these things, or are they going to require people to now submit hard copy?
That is a very good question, John. And we were grappling with this about a year ago when we thought we were going back in person, and then we never did. I do have a count of people, ARB members, that were requesting paper copies. The only problem that I see with that is that the county no longer requires paper submission at all. We've gone completely digital. So I can see that being just a challenge for applicants to actually, get physical paper copies. But if that's what the Architectural Review Board needs, then that's what we're going to have to require moving forward.
I mean, they mailed them to us before. It wasn't.
Yes.
I mean, the technology exists.
Before 3 years ago, we used to get paper copies of everything as well. We don't get I don't have any paper coming to me at all anymore. It's all done digital.
Yeah, I am not requesting that we revert to paper copies. All I'm asking is that what plans does the county have for us to be able to collectively view high resolution blow-ups of drawings and photographs in rooms 9 and 10 when we reconvene in person?
I think that's a good question, and I think that I would ask for your input on what you would like. You will, as far as I know, there will be no provision to provide laptops or any kind of digital screens in front of you, except for what is provided in rooms 9 and 10, which is a larger screen that applicants can present their presentations on.
Well, last time we convened in that room, my recollection is they had an overhead projector that projected fuzzy images on a dim screen at the other end of the room. Right. And I would argue that that's not adequate for the level of detail that we need to be able to review these projects and provide people good, solid, defensible feedback. They need to do better in this room if we're going to meet in person. I don't need a laptop. I'm not asking for a laptop, but I do think the county needs to really upgrade their digital projection systems in the meeting room where we will be gathered.
And if we are going to be moving from place to place, then those digital projection systems will vary from wherever we are too. So let's say we had it at the South County's Government Center. There might be a totally different system.
Well, ahead, could Chris, we meet in the Board of Supervisors room? They seem to have the good technology.
The boardroom has been offered to me as an option when I have not been able to find a room.
Well, John, I see Joe's got his hand up too, but I just want to add one comment to your question. Denise, you always have to be there. You have to have the plans submitted to you. Can you not have those materials and present them on whatever device is provided? If we had the right projection equipment. My point is, if the county's getting the copies of the plans, the county should have them and I don't mean to put this on Heritage staff, but the ARB administrator should have the set of design plans or the presentation ideally. I would hope that you might be able to, if we were in a room that had the right projection equipment like John you're seeking, you should be able to pull that up instead of us, because I remember back in the days we had to deal with people having to plug into that projector, and then we spent 10 minutes waiting for someone to actually get their presentation to show up. But if it's a county projector and a county laptop, then my hope would be that you could pull it up and we could see it on the screen. And that might be part of the solution, is requiring those materials and that presentation be to you before the ARB meeting. That, obviously they have to put it in plus, but if there's a presentation, you have to have it prior to, so that only one person is solving the laptop question. That's just an idea. John, I don't know if that kind of helps address some of it, at least.
Yes, it does. I think that the county is correct in moving to digital submissions, but I think that from what I understand, the technology that's available to share those digital images with people in an in-person meeting is lagged, and they need to address that if we're going to go back and begin meeting on a regular basis. They may not do it by March, but April or May, we ought to have really good, high-quality digital images.
I'll just say, John, I think it's not that it's lagging in all spaces. I think we just get the short end of the stick, because I've been in plenty of Rest and Task Force meetings where they have plenty great projection equipment showing when DPD staff is having to run the meeting, and not us, the pariahs of the DPD. Sometimes I feel like when I attended a Rest and Task Force meeting with the Planning Commission, no problem, 5 screens in the room, projectors everywhere. Well, there was dazzling.
Right, but the meeting rooms that we have traditionally met in, that is to the left of the Taj's great hallway there, all have mediocre digital projection equipment.
And I'm happy to be the person who facilitates the presentation. I now ask the applicants to have their presentations to me if they wish support. So if they wish for my support in the meetings, I ask them to have their presentations to me by noon the day before. I don't often get them at that time, but that's fine. I put an early due date. I'm happy to be the person that runs the presentation, but I don't think that the quality of the projection system is going to change because I'm running the presentation. I think we may, facilitate moving faster through the presentations. There won't be the plug and play that we used to have with the flash drives and everything. I know that was a difficulty, but I think your point is the quality of the equipment, and I don't believe that any upgrades have been made to those rooms in the past 3 years.
Hey, Joe, I know you had your hand up for a little while.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just going to reiterate a few things. John, I totally agree with you. And one thing with the room, why don't we try and get the Board of Supervisors room? They all have a monitor by their chairs and so forth. It's all so we can look at everything. That's 2. 3 is, if I brought in my iPad, like I'm right now, I'm looking at you guys on the iPad, I can use that to look at drawings. Would we still get the links, and will there be a Wi-Fi in the room that we can use for connecting to the links if we brought in a device that we could see them at our individual chairs that we bring in ourselves, a laptop, iPad, or whatever?
I think so. I connect to the county's Wi-Fi through my phone when I'm there. I don't think
Denise, as it stands, you're still going to be sharing us those files because you're getting them digitally now. I think the question is one question was, is any member expecting that they now get paper submissions? No judgment there. I think we talked about that in the past.
Yeah, I don't want that. Yeah, got it. Sorry.
As one of the people who wanted them, I understand, and I can live without them. But I very much share John's concerns about the meeting rooms. I also want to raise another issue. If we have a hybrid meeting with some people who are participating remotely, we're not allowed to do that.
No,
Really?
The
rooms have no microphones, and the History Commission's December meeting was hell.
I think they killed that for us, so we don't have that ability.
Okay, good.
We're all together in this. That's why when I talked with Denise, I said we should think about, because we have so many Holland Hills applications, maybe a few sessions that just in general occur down there, not just for us, but for the sake of the applicants. I do think just in general though, Denise, then I think you and DPD need to be looking at a different location for us then, because those 2 rooms are unacceptable now. based on what our technology needs are. And I think if that means me having to go talk to Leanna and say, we're not going to be able to discharge this board's lawful duties and purposes because we don't have the right equipment. And it's not that we don't want to be together in the room. We're fine with that. But if we don't have the tech to do it, then it's going to be a travesty. And you're going to get an applicant that's going to go to their supervisor eventually because we turned down an application because we couldn't actually all talk about it, or we had to defer because of a technological snafu. And I definitely don't want that to happen. So I'd rather, if there are other rooms that they are just withholding because we just aren't thinking about them, let's get them on the docket here about where we could go in the future. Because I know, as everyone said, there are other spaces in that building that are far better when it comes to technology.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was going to say just one thing too is right now the meetings are fairly efficient, except for sometimes the presenters like tonight was a little long-winded, so to speak. But I think, I mean, these meetings could last on for hours, and if we have, we got to say, hey, what's this? I can't see it. It's just going to be, as Elise said, a nightmare with the Historical Commission. We'll repeat that. And is it premature to go in March? Do we have to go in March, or can we wait till April till all this is ironed out?
I think we're being told we have to go in March.
Yeah, you have to go in March on March 1st. The emergency order will be lifted, and the Architectural Review Board is one of the boards that has no virtual capacity. So
do we need to talk to our supervisors about this? Because it sounds like, Denise, it's very much above your pay grade.
Yeah,
and you've known this was coming for several years, but nothing has been done. So do we need to talk to our supervisors and say, hey, we can't meet unless they spend some money on the rooms we've been offered? Yeah. Or will you look to see if you can get a better room, and then we'll talk to our supervisors?
Well, as I said, the boardroom has been offered to me before when I've been looking for a room to hold a meeting.
The planning commission often meets that night.
Exactly.
That's why I don't think you can count on the boardroom.
Yeah, exactly, Elise. That's exactly right. So occasionally it'll be free, but the planning commission, you compete with the planning commission for that room. Yes. I think the problem is your evening. There's the conflict, the Wednesday evening.
Let me ask you something real quick. Shoot, I just forgot. I'm sorry. I got so excited about that. I forgot what I was going to say. I'll have to come back. Sorry. Jeez. Well,
Denise, if I think what I would ask is that you look if there is an alternative location for March, even if that is. I know you've already gotten 9 or 2 current rooms, or at least assess the current situation. Let's look at what options we have, and then I think in particular, perhaps me and you need to have a conversation with Leanna about we need a different space. If we're switching to all digital, and I think that's a nice opportunity for me to talk about Plus, which is starting to really piss me off by how it's operating. The fact that, I mean, nothing against our prior applicant, good for him. He got it approved, but that shouldn't have happened. And if everything's coming in digitally, that's fine. I'm all for it, but we need to have a way that our membership can pull those things up. And I think that at least the single point of technology through DPD staff is fine, but we need working technology in the room. And so if that room doesn't meet the need, then they need to provide our board that has a requirement with the right room. Or we're just going to have to defer on all our applications if we can't review them, guys. I mean, that's the only other option. It'll be a short meeting.
There you go. Denise had a real quick question. I'm sorry to be so long-winded. So the audience has to be there present. It's not virtual at all for the audience as well.
That's correct.
Everybody's like old time. All right.
Yeah.
It's a shame because I think we had really good attendance with this and seamless and so forth. That's what I would hope that the public could come in virtually if we got to be there, but oh well.
I do miss the cookies during Christmas and around Valentine's Day that people used to bring in.
Yeah, I gotcha. And by the way, I did buy a timer for Linda Blank, and she collected with you guys for, as Steve mentioned, it had red, green, and yellow lights on it, and it's a timer, and it had a buzzer too. I bought that, and I don't know where it went. I bought it 2 years before she left, so it's been in the coffers for at least 5-7 years hanging around there. Just saying.
Oh, it's in the big wheeled
Yeah.
Yeah.
file carrier that she
That's
had.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, along with extension cords
You
and
got it.
cables and
And
yeah,
water. And water.
and
That's
water.
right.
And
Yeah.
the nameplate's in a Danville bag.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Hey, you're gonna have to get nameplates for new members.
Oh,
Please.
man.
Yeah.
That's right.
Miss Camblin's gonna need a nameplate. Did everyone else have
Who
one by
else?
then?
Who
Yeah.
else came on?
But anyways, okay. Was that any other comments on that return that we can share with Denise? So Denise, I think follow up on this. Let's talk about a meeting with you, me, and Leanna about solutions here.
Okay. There is the room, Chris, I know the room that you're talking about, and I have tried to secure it for the Architectural Review Board, the one in the back corner that the task force was meeting in, and I've just been told no.
By who?
The room person, the room reservation person.
The room Nazi.
I didn't say that.
We shall.
I'll say that.
Again, I think this is why you, me, and Leanna should talk, because I won't want the March meeting on my wife's birthday to be a tragedy like when I return home to be a tragedy. I want only one tragedy.
Will do.
Okay. Were there any other administrative items? Or is that it?
Sorry. That's it for administrative items.
All right.
Thank you.
Discussion, updates, and reports. Lorton Workhouse Master Plan.
Sure. I'll take this one. As you know, well, first of all, the master plan, there's a open charrette, public invited in person at the Lorton Arts Foundation on next Wednesday, the 15th. So that's, anybody can come. But the last meeting we had here as A or B, I think Mr. Daniels and John Burns, Mr. Burns, you mentioned that, hey, we should talk to the BDHR about that. We're doing this master plan because of the previous application for the preschool was kind of modified to not to our liking, perhaps. So I did have a meeting, a phone call with a conference call with on January 20th with Joe Lahat. He's the person from the county who's in charge of the money. He's the money guy for the Lorton Arts Prison. Eileen Sheridan, she was also there to help run it, and Carolyn Blanco. Carolyn is also kind of the chair for the effort, and Leon, who is the person at the workhouse, who's also on the board for the master plan. So in any event, we all discussed it, and they also went back to their county constituents. Before the call ended, we were all in agreement. Yes, we should personally invite the VDHR people in Richmond, or at least inform them that there's this meeting, because a lot of them don't get that invite, and I know they don't. So in any event, I got several emails back. Oh, we plan to do it after the master plan is done, so they can have it, so they can look at it, and perhaps we will get comments then from them. I told them, I said, I think you should do it sooner than later. It's out of my control. I gave them fair warning. So it's going to go on as advertised. If someone from BDHR heard by word of mouth or something, there's something up here. It's not virtual, so they have to drive up here. So be it. I told them that the concerns were, you got this wonderful master plan that's a beautiful graphic, beautiful book, sits on the coffee table, never gets done because it'll get maybe kiboshed by the BDHR people. But hey, the bottom line is it's going to continue to get done, and we'll see what happens. I tried my best, guys. I gave them fair warning, but what happened to our little thing with the preschool? But they're pretty adamant that what they have planned is going to work. So I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet from now on and just be an observer and contribute to the master plan design. That's all.
Thank you, Joe, for following up on that.
No, yeah, thank you for your advice, dude. That's fingers crossed.
Hopefully it's not a we told them so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Reston master plan. Not much to update here for us. I had a meeting with DPD staff to discuss their proposed revisions to the heritage section. They were relatively minor and completely agreeable. It's crazy. The heritage branch chief totally knew exactly what I might be wanting, and she was willing to work with me on those changes. So it was very, very easy. So to do that. I will say, just as a caveat, on the other hand, the county is struggling with the proposed community health and equity sections that Reston chose to add. And the Board of Supervisors felt a little skittish by the fact that a community wanted to set some objectives for itself, as though it is stepping outside its bounds. So I'm going through different frustrations on a non-heritage level. It's just interesting to see. But that's neither here nor there. But that being said, it seems like that the text is going to be updated extensively, and it'll be a very robust heritage section for Reston as well. Our man in the sky, Mr. John Carter, up there at the Planning Commission, also is a strong advocate for the Association Drive, as well as emphasis on tax credits and exploring options there. So that language is still being retained in places too. So we have a little bit of an in this plan for applications that there is language in the comp plan that encourages preservation, rehab, and reuse of properties. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, but we can't have, no one can say I didn't know this time at least.
Regarding Reston, Supervisor Alcorn's recent newsletter noted that there's a delay in some county properties and Folger Pratt withdrawing from a housing development, and noted that that would cause the proposed new Reston Regional Library will be delayed several years. It's ironic that there had been a building on the other side of the Dulles Toll Road that would have been perfect for a new regional library that was allowed to be torn down through the county's flawed wisdom.
John, I still think there are several buildings over there that could potentially be converted into a library and a educational campus that are still standing. So I've thought about throwing that suggestion out there. I don't know how well it would be received, but it's not the API, but it's
not the API, but they had $10 million. And they could have bought the API for $3 million and put a couple million into, making changes to it, and they would have had the library already. I'll be quiet now.
All right. Moving on, another Reston-oriented one, actually brand new from today. So I took part in the Reston Lake Ann Revitalization Study Focus Group. If you remember, we provided funds to evaluate the assessment of Lake Ann and give a more historic preservation-minded look. That was thrown into a package that the supervisor sought to do a revitalization study in general on Lake Ann. So the supervisor was able to fund our study through the measure. That was nice. I was invited. I indicated I would be willing to attend. I showed up, and I attended a listening session with the new consultant that the county's brought on, seeking all kinds of input. They're going to be hosting 2 charrettes in the future, one during the day and I think one during the evening, to start talking about what can be done to help continue to allow Lake Ann to be a vital and prosperous location. And I will just say, in the short session I attended, the buildings and the character of Lake Ann is something that every person that was there said was a vital factor. So the nice thing is the historic properties, are important to the folks that they're seeking input on. The question is whether or not that will be taken to heart. I mentioned tax credits again till I was blue in the face. That's an opportunity for funds, but nothing to really see from here. I think this study will, in the future, probably, similar to what Joe's working on with the master plan, these are things that'll trigger future things that'll come down the line, that'll come to us. So the more we can have hands in them now, like Joe's doing, the better. Obviously, we can have up to 2 members on it. So if there's anyone else who has an interest, we can definitely have someone else.
Yeah, this will be like the 5th revitalization plan that I've been through.
You know what? At least they mentioned that.
I may be exaggerating, but at least 3.
They even said, why is this revitalization study different than the others, was one of the items the consultant stated. And one of the ladies who was there before Lake Ann was built, very nice woman, was talking like, let me tell you about the amount of revitalization studies I've seen. So I felt like you could have been a kindred spirit to her.
She's been at it longer than I.
All right, that's all I have on that one. Obviously, if there's another member that has an interest, 2 of us can take part. So I know, Samantha, you might have had interest, but if there's anyone else, John, I know you did too. just let me know. We can make sure we get your name in the hat on that too. Any other updates, Denise? All
No,
right.
nothing.
Correspondence and announcements.
So I sent around the National Register nomination for Drover's Rest. I think I sent it out at the beginning of this month. DHR is asking for comments from the Architectural Review Board, the History Commission staff, to be provided before it is heard by the State Review Board. So I've asked for comments from you all by, I'm looking at my notes here, March 6th, so I can consolidate all of our comments and put together one package to send to DHR. If you would prefer to write your own letter, separate letter that can just go as an attachment to our comment letter, you know, that's fine. If you'd like to do that, I would just ask for it maybe the day before. I'll be sending in our comments probably on the 15th. So if you could get it to me the day before that, that would be perfect. So either way.
What was the name of that property again?
It's called Drover's Rest. It's in the Drainsville district. And I will be honest with you, I have not yet looked at the submission.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. No other comments on that. Old business bylaws revisions for August recess.
Yeah.
Denise and the county attorney noticed a potential hiccup in our bylaws revision that there's another part of our bylaws that says we'll meet monthly. So there's some conflicting language in our bylaws that would have to be corrected, obviously, if we were to take a recess. I think Jason still felt we could, if we made the right corrections, still maintain that consistency, Denise, right?
Yes, yeah. I think that the question now, though, is with the one special meeting that we're having to have in February, and perhaps the continued special meetings that we may be having to have. As we've seen, the caseload has really been consistently increasing. March is looking to be pretty packed as well. Already we have. I know that we have at least 5 potential applications in March. And those are applications, not workshops. So I want to sort of put it out there that we may want to consider thinking about changing that monthly stipulation to be more flexible. I don't know whether the special the wording in the bylaws is that you can hold a special meeting, and perhaps that covers.
That's what I did for this, is I claimed it was a special meeting on the 13th. But what Denise also brings up is, how do we need to make it clear that we could, at our decision, host that? Samantha, you had your hand up first, and then we'll go Joe.
Okay. Yeah, I have mic sound. Maybe you already mentioned, so after March 1st, if we have to have another special meeting, is that going to be in person?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh.
Any meeting we have after and starting from March onward is all in person.
Oops. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Joe.
Yeah, sure thing. Like in Arlington County, when they do this all the time, because I had a lot of on their docket, especially when it was in person as well as the virtual now, is they'll just say it's a continuance meeting versus a special meeting. So it's the first meeting. If it has to go longer, because they have a shut off time at 10:30, I think it is, and if it goes longer, it goes to the next day. That is a Tuesday and a Wednesday. This is different, but how the calendar works. However, you could just say it's a continuance of the first meeting as opposed to a special meeting. So therefore it's one meeting, but it happens to go over 2 days. So it's a continuance. If you want to get around by that, possibly that's one way to craft it. I think, as you can tell, even Mr. Kalinsky has kind of said it was kind of long nights, and so to speak. I'll change the subject here, but I think we should do whatever we can to get the August recess, because it sounds like we're going to get several months, and I'm looking in the crystal ball here, is that we'll have probably 2 meetings a month for some time until Holland Hills kind of simmers down, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. Just saying.
Well, and I will take ownership on the last application. I was not being judicious enough on getting that moving along on that one. But I don't think it's more about the continuation, Joe. It's more about we just need to make sure our bylaws are clear that if we need to, we can host a meeting to let us break up these. And I guess from everybody's perspective, I saw it as workshops are a secondary item. So no matter what, the applications have to be on the docket. We have to always do the ones that are coming for approval. If we have to have a second session, it'll be for that. And I think this next one is going to be a test case for if we say, okay, you have 30 minutes for your entire discussion. I'm starting the clock.
That's fine. I was just thinking how I thought the issue was how you label it, special meeting or continuance. But hey, whatever it is, it's 2 meetings. No problem. Okay. That's fine.
So I think that the issue that I was raising, though, is your bylaws specifically say that the ARB shall have regular monthly meetings on the second Thursday of each month. And then we're adding, except the month of August, at 6:30 at the Fairfax County Government Center or at other such time and place as designated by the ARB, and shall have other special meetings from time to time at the times and places designated by the chairperson of the ARB. And then it goes on to say that we've added the sentence about the ARB will not hold a regular monthly meeting in the month of August, but may hold special meetings in accordance with the provisions of these bylaws. The ARB may change the time and place of regular monthly meetings as it deems appropriate. So this language was just flagged. I'll tell you what happened was as we're moving forward to the bylaws forward to the Board of Supervisors, Leanna flagged the language saying, if you're having to hold 2 meetings in the month of February, you may want to consider looking at this monthly meeting and allowing more flexibility in your bylaws. Perhaps holding a special meeting is enough flexibility, but just before we put this in front of the board and then have to walk it back and say, oh, we're gonna make another change, I wanted to put it in front of you all to see if you felt like that offered you enough flexibility to have 2 meetings a month, if that's what you need to do. Does that make sense?
Was an attorney mad about it? Because I'm fine with the language being more precise to say, hey, we can choose to hold additional meetings if needed, but I'm just trying to see what trouble
or was it the attorney?
This was Leanna.
Well, I think maybe we should get the attorney to weigh in first.
I was hoping that Jason Zellman would be here for this discussion. Quite honestly, that was
because frankly, it's the county attorney that's going to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
If they don't think if they don't think our language is right, it's not. But it's really kind of in their court. It's not DPZ's court. It's in the county attorney's court.
Fair
enough.
If
they don't like it, they can shut us down and we'll cancel the meeting because we gotta get the projector to work anyways. So right. I mean, the input from Jason, and so maybe we need to just table this for if we have time at the end of the workshop session, if Jason wants to provide input on it, if I think he's going to be at that. But yeah, the county attorney's thoughts. If it needs to be more accurate and there's a better way to say it, as long as it lets us have our meetings and it allows us to have our recess in August, I don't think any of us care.
Okay.
Necessarily. I'm not seeing anyone who says they care.
I'm just looking for a little bit of clarification here. So are you saying that the language is supposed to try and give more flexibility on conducting possibly 2 meetings in a month, or are you trying to switch to 2 meetings per month and the month of August is off? We have off. Is that what I'm hearing?
Just provide more flexibility because the language is specifically about holding monthly meetings. So the question is, do you want to revisit this to provide more flexibility so that we don't have to hold a special meeting? But maybe special meetings covers it. As I said, it was flagged by Leanna, and I told her I would bring it to the Architectural Review Board for discussion.
I would say, Karen, just to let you know, I don't think any of us want to go to 2 meetings a month. I think we want to
Okay.
be at I think it's more of the county is concerned about us calling it, are you okay with just calling it a special meeting? To which I'm like, it's a special meeting. I especially didn't want to have to schedule it, but
Got it.
if the county feels like we need to say it a little differently to make sure that we're being precise, that's fine. I want to make sure that we can still host the meetings in other locations, though. I don't want to hamstring
Yeah.
ourselves if someone says, hey, you have to have it at the government center. I want to be able to have it at a appropriate location in South County, too, so that, Joe
Yeah.
and Michelle and John can, all carpool together.
And there is
Even me.
Yeah. Hey, I said, look, if the county's not going to play with us, we can always just say, fine, we'll just keep on kicking these projects down the line here, so we only have 1 meeting a month. But the applicants might have to wait 2 months before they get their case heard versus that month they have, before the month they apply it, for. That's one option. Not to say I want to do that. I'm just saying, gosh, I think we're, we are giving up our personal time here to do something for the county, and they got to bat with us. Please.
I think we can find a solution to it. I'm optimistic of that.
Me too.
All right. I don't want to hold us any longer unless anyone else said. I will set up a meeting with Denise and Leanna to talk about a couple of these items, logistic items. We can work through them. And otherwise, I don't think we have anything else on the agenda, correct, Denise?
nothing from me.
Oh, Mr. Burns, you have your hand up. Oh, I forgot. I always need to leave a space for John's items.
Yeah, sorry, at the last minute, Denise has sent to us the pending proposed changes to the comp plan, to zoning changes and stuff like that. And honestly, I only have time to look at the stuff in the Mount Vernon district, but there's a huge amount of change being proposed. And I would ask all of you to look in your respective districts as to what's going on. In Mount Vernon, there are 2 things that are proposed for changes that are within the historic overlay district for Woodlawn. There are changes all up and down the Route 1 corridor. There are changes to many throughout the county over 1-story shopping centers. Pan Am Center is one I happen to know off of Nutley. There's also the Bellevue Shopping Center near where I live. And all of those proposals propose greatly increased density on them. So I think that one of the things, we need to be cognizant of is there's incredible amount of change being proposed in the county, particularly in corridors that are proposed for redevelopment. And I'm thinking Route 1 corridor, the Bailey's Crossroads area, and other parts of the county. And unless we keep an eye on what's going on in those and what's being proposed, we may be losing buildings that are potentially of great heritage value. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. I second that. Please continue to, if you have the chance, check the zoning submissions. It's pretty wild sometimes, some of the things that come in there.
Hey, hi, this is Joe. I'm sorry. Denise, can you resend that? I think I mistakenly deleted that, not on purpose, but I mistakenly did it because I'm actually involved with that Pan Am project, John, so watch it.
Sure. It's just the report that I send out every month, and
Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I'm starting to feel old when shopping centers that I remember new or threatened with redevelopment, or that we consider them historic. I'm not sure I've folded any swords for Pan Am.
I don't know. The real thing is the Pan Am wing of the airport up in New York. That is the hotel to go and stay at if you want a luxury stay.
No. That was the TWA terminal.
TWA. That's what I'm thinking of.
Please, Pan Am's already been torn down.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Look, it was before my time.
No, I remember flying out of that terminal. It was really cool. But anyway, I think I emailed this to Denise and Chris earlier today. Is that the advice of preservation is eternal vigilance as to what the county planners are doing. They are not advocates of preservation.
True words. All right. Any other new business?
I'll move for adjournment.
All right. That's a motion for adjournment's always in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed? I didn't think so. All right.
Have a good Valentine's Day. See
Happy
ya.
Valentine's
Yeah,
Day. Good
Monday.
night, folks.
See you next Monday.
Yes, everybody come back on Monday.
I'll be here, Denise.
Thanks, Steve. Have a good
You're
evening.
Bye.